Reince Priebus is the chairman of the RNC. He joins us from their headquarters in Washington, D.C. Good morning to you, Reince.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Remember when Ronald Reagan had that 11th commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Republican?
Yeah. I mean, and I think for the most part, the Republicans are going to stick to that, Steve. And you know, other Reagan phrases were, "Look, my 80% friend doesn't make my 20% enemy." And I think for the most part, Republicans believe in that. But you know, look at 2010. I mean, it was one of the biggest GOP victories in the entire in decades. But you know, there were still states, like I come from Wisconsin, and most states had very competitive primaries. And so I happen to believe that having a lot of people in the field debating each other, drawing out distinctions, you know, within reason, and I think Perry's comments were reasonable, at least in his tone and his approach, but he wants to draw a distinction. Mitt Romney's answered the question. He's talked about states' rights and federalism, and you know, I think these are all issues that are good for us. We're out there in the media, we're out there talking to Americans, and at the end of the day, Americans know that they want to fire President Obama, but now it's up to us to provide a clear, articulate alternative to this president.
Well, you know, Mr. Romney's probably feeling the heat there in Iowa because there are 3 polls out this morning, the Triple P poll, the Magellan poll, and a poll by a PAC for Mr. Perry called Make Us Great Again, where Mr. Perry is in #1 place in all of them, and either Mr. Romney or Mrs. Bachmann is in 2nd place.
Well, you know, and I think we're going to see a lot of that, Steve. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I do know that all of the horsepower right now in the country for how we're going to get America back on track is on the Republican side. I mean, look, the president's giving speeches. He's going on taxpayer-paid buses made in Canada, and now he's vacationing in Martha's Vineyard with a promise that we're going to have yet another speech to talk about how we're going to get our economy back on track.
And now, you guys are taking a shot at the president and his vacation in Martha's Vineyard, because I understand you now have an app people can download that is like the Obama vacation debt clock that has the figure for the national debt, and you can have it on your smartphone all the time with you now, right?
Well, that's right. And if you go to ObamaGetaway.com, you can find it there. And if you go to GOP.com, you can backtrack and get to it that way as well. But this is what it's about. I mean, this president talks about how everything that's happening in America is everyone else's fault except Barack Obama's. Now, he said he'd get the deficit under control, and he introduced the biggest structural deficit in America. He said he'd get the debt under control, Steve. And under his policies, he put us on a trajectory to accumulate more debt on his watch than anybody else before him.
All right. And so you would like people to download that app. Reince Priebus, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us live.
Steve, thank you. Take care.
All right.